All right, today we're going to tackle a skill that is absolutely essential for any Java developer who's serious about their craft. We're talking about packages. These are the secret sauce for turning that tangled mess of code into a clean, professional architecture. So let's get right into it.
Hey, let me ask you something. Does your Java project, as it gets bigger, start to feel like a digital junk drawer? You've got files scattered everywhere, you can't quite remember what's what, and trying to add a new feature feels like you're performing surgery in the dark? If that sounds even a little bit familiar, then you are definitely in the right place.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to take a little journey from total chaos to crystal clarity. First, we're going to face the beast head-on with the code chaos problem. Then, we'll introduce the hero of our story, packages, your code's organizer. After that, we'll roll up our sleeves and get hands-on with putting packages into practice. And finally, we'll see how it all clicks together so you can start building like a pro.
Okay, first up, the code chaos problem. This is that moment, and trust me, every developer has it, where a project that started out so beautiful and simple just starts to get completely out of hand.
This is exactly what happens when you don't use packages. You end up wading through what I like to call the code swamp. It's this murky place where all your Java files are just dumped into one single giant folder. Now, for a tiny project, maybe that's fine, but as soon as it starts to grow, you're hit with naming conflicts, total disorganization, and you can forget about scalability. It makes it nearly impossible to grow your application or even work with a team.
Just look at this. On the left, you've got a naming disaster just waiting to happen. I mean, what if you need a list class for your user interface and a totally different list class for your data model? You can't have two files with the exact same name. But on the right, that's the solution. With packages, every single class gets its own unique, fully qualified name. Think of it like a unique street address for every file in your project. No more conflicts? Problem solved.
So, how do we get from that messy pile on the left to that beautiful structure on the right? Well, that brings us right into section 2, packages, your code's organizer. This is really the elegant solution to all that chaos. So what is a Java package, really? Well, at its core, it's basically just a container, a folder, for grouping related stuff together. Your classes, your interfaces, you name it. It does two incredibly important jobs. It organizes your code, and it provides what's called a namespace, which is just a fancy way of saying it prevents those annoying naming conflicts.
Let me give you a simpler way to think about it. Imagine your entire project is a workshop. Without packages, all of your tools are just thrown in a giant pile on the floor. It's a mess. But with packages, you have these perfectly labeled toolboxes. You've got one for your database tools, one for your user interface tools, another for your utility tools. Everything is organized, tidy, and super easy to find.
And when you use packages effectively, you basically give your code superpowers. First, you get that crystal clear organization and perfect namespace management. And guess what? Organized code is way easier to share, which promotes reusability. It also makes collaboration a breeze because different teams can work in their own toolboxes without getting in each other's way. And all of this together fosters modularity, which is the absolute cornerstone of building big, scalable applications.
Okay, the theory is solid, I get it. But how do we actually do this in our code? Well, let's get into the practical side of things. Welcome to Section 3, Putting Packages into Practice. And you'll see this is way easier than you might think.
Creating your own package is a really simple 3-step process. First, you pick a unique name. The convention is to use your organization's domain name, but backwards. Second, you create a folder structure that actually mirrors that name. So for com.myapp.util, you'd have a util folder inside a myapp folder inside a com folder. And finally, the most important step, you add the package statement to the very, very first line of your Java file. That's it. That one line officially makes that file part of that package.
Now, what if you want to use a class from another package? Well, you've got to import it. Right after your package declaration, you add an import statement. You can do this two ways. You can import one specific class, like our user class from the model package, or you can use the little star, the wildcard, to import all the public classes from a package, like everything inside util. Specific imports are usually clear, but hey, wildcards can be handy when you need a bunch of classes from the same place.
Now, here's a crucial point you have to understand. That import statement only works for classes that are declared as public. These things called access modifiers control what's visible between packages. If a class isn't public, it's basically private to its own package, which creates this really strong protective boundary. This is a super powerful concept called encapsulation, and it helps you control exactly how your code gets used.
This just gives us a quick guide to a couple of other import types. We already talked about the wildcard import. It's useful, but best practice is to use it sparingly because it can sometimes make your code a little confusing. A static import is a bit different. It lets you import static methods and fields directly. This means you can call them without having to type the class name every time. It's perfect for things like math functions or logging utilities you use all over the place.
All right, let's wrap this all up and connect it back to the bigger picture. Section 4, Building Like a Pro. Because this is about more than just a bit of syntax. It's about adopting a professional mindset.
This quote from our source material just absolutely hits the nail on the head. Packages are not some optional, nice-to-have feature. No way. They are essential if your goal is to build software that is well-structured, easy to maintain, and can actually grow and evolve over time.
So, if you walk away with anything today, let it be this. Packages are the tool you use to transform a tangled mess into an organized, logical system. They are your #1 defense against overwhelming complexity and simple naming errors. Honestly, using them is a non-negotiable skill if you want to build scalable apps. This is the foundation of all professional, collaborative, and maintainable Java code, period. We've just handed you the map to escape that code swamp for good and start building clean, robust applications. You now hold the keys to clean architecture. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. Now that you know how to organize your code like a pro, what are you going to build?